What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the newest episode of Sell Yourself or Sell Yourself Short podcast. I'm Jonathan Farrell. Got Mr. Rick Hancock with me, Mr. Scott Hardy, and Miss Palmer Hardy. How are you all doing today?
Good. I'm just laughing at your intro.
I love the intro. That's actually, so James has a full video done of every intro that I've done, and it's the same thing every single time. What is going on, everybody?
Except for the times that you've been.
I had a couple of those.
The days when you're out of the office, we should play your intro on the TV.
We'll do that though. Man, it's just what is going on?
What is going on?
What is
And
going
it just
on,
keeps
everybody?
replaying. What's going on? What's going
We'll
on?
have that
Everyone's
going.
like,
Well, we are back here for our newest episode. We're super excited to discuss, of course, selling yourself, the world of sales. We've had a lot going on this week, too, so I wanted to break into this podcast. I don't even know what we're talking about today.
Well, we want to find out what's going on from you guys in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's a good
definitely.
idea.
You know, I mean, we've seen some slack in the supply chain, and now we can order everything we want from Lowe's and Home Depot.
Yeah,
that's a huge leading indicator. We've gone into some deals last week that there were no competing offers.
yeah, that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
It was a pool home
I mean,
that
that's
didn't
something
have
else.
a bunch of crazy offers.
Yeah.
And that tells you something.
yeah, I'm starting to
Three
see
offers instead of 40, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm starting to see that. Now, the one thing that I will also say, too, is there's a lot more borrowers that are still coming out of the woodwork. Like, we're still pre-approving people like crazy. I just had, I took 8 pre-approvals the last 2 days. So, I mean, that's, a lot of people coming in to the market. There's a lot more inventory that's on the market. I think basically the initial rush kind of happened where it's just like everybody was scrambling to get into their houses, and now it's already starting to kind of level out. But I also think a lot of people are being priced out of the market because a lot of people that I've qualified for $400,000, that used to get you pull home in Marietta all day long. You can't even buy a condo for that right now. So I starting to see the market shifting in that perspective, but there still is a lot of people that are out there ready to buy and who can buy and who have the money to do so.
What would you say the average person is pre-approved for in this area?
About 550 on average, 4 to 5. I'm sorry,
We
500
said
to
and we
550.
saw yesterday's report. The average price is like 568 right now.
Yeah.
So see that?
Well-
It's like the Ford F-150,
Right.
right? What is that? 50 with tax now?
Yep.
And the average income in the households are
You
like
can
36,000.
Yeah.
You can act, if
Yeah.
you bought
What's
a
the payment
car,
on that bit? That's like
50,000.
yeah. If you finance it all, that's like $1,000 a
It's
month.
$1,000 a month. So
That's what those guys. Yeah.
And
this
that's
is why.
with a relatively good interest
If you
rate?
think the market's going to crash, you're right. It's going to automotive crash.
Yeah. See, that's what I was sort
You
of
can't
curious, too.
afford. That's what I think. I mean, everyone's
This is
worried
where
about
a
the
lot of
housing
those
market. I'm not
people-
worried about the housing market. I'm worried about the automotive market. That thing's been
This
gamed
is what
forever.
we're seeing too. We are seeing so many people that are coming in with these high car payments because what they've
That's
done
what you
is
had to help someone with,
they've
huh?
stacked their
And
car payment.
Can you
that they
say
turn
what
in.
the average income is?
Average income is roughly $5,000 to $6,000
Say
a
that?
month. $5,000 to $6,000 gross.
Okay, so 70,
Month.
80 grand a month, a year. I mean,
A year.
A year.
So, okay, that is okay. So in the Temecula Valley, or what we call the Inland Empire, let's say. So these are statistics from the Economic Forum. So this is, I'll say it in layman's terms. If you want to make money out here, you better own your own business or go into healthcare. And if you're in healthcare, you're around 80 because you're going to be a nurse in general. Okay,
My
or you're
wife.
the D student, or sorry everyone, you're the D student doctor that now has his own practice out here, or the D student lawyer, okay, because this is what we see out here, all right? And then if you want to make money in construction, you're going to make 60. So how are we supposed to, you got a nurse married to a doctor, to a construction worker, right? Or a cop or whatever. So you got 80 and 80, 160. What can and what's my typical debt load out here?
Typically $2,000 to $3,000.
A month I'm paying. So I'm a third of that. A third of my income, okay, is debt. So I can qualify based on a $160,000 household. I'm the ultimate one, right? So I got $160,000. I got 30% debt. Well, how big of a home can I qualify for? Generally speaking,
$550.
$550. But the average price right now is $568. And when you put the offer in, you need to be 20 or 30 over. Blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
and
Do you
can't,
see?
and the appraiser, the appraisals are sometimes under whatever that offer was. So then you have to just come up with that cash
To come up with
difference.
the difference.
So you
most
see
people
the
don't have that much
self-limiting
in the bank.
nature of the marketplace of supply and demand. And so what do you think the number one reason where the price increases out here?
Supply and demand issue. It's
and
still
people coming from surrounding areas
because they can
to
buy
move out
more.
here because they
Right.
could get so much more.
Right.
And did you know that in 2005 or so that's also what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that every one of those people who moved from the beach areas regretted that and have mostly tried to move back.
Right.
Because of the air difference. You have ocean air and you have dirt
Huge
air.
difference,
Okay, you know, valley air. When you build a lot, there's a lot of
Get
dirt
your
in it.
smog.
You get the dirt smog, right? Okay.
There's
But
constant
it's a great
bills.
place to raise your kids. The problem is everyone has to make money somewhere else. So then the commuting thing has started, and we've
Why
seen
do
a
you
lot
think
of
our
traffic
traffic's
pressure.
Right.
So where do you think it's going? Like, what do you see with the economic indicators? I mean, we have supply, which is
You too,
increasing a
Rick.
bit.
You too, Rick. You
Right?
Can talk.
Chime in.
Like both of you. Hello.
So this is what I basically it always comes down to a couple different things. So in the staff meeting that we had yesterday, we talked now that we are seeing the level, right? So it's starting to level off because there's not that heavy competition that there was before, right?
Do you think because some buyers are pulling out? 'cause
Some
they just
buyers are
can't?
pulling out because they can't, and then also there's like the people that had the money who can overpay to buy the house. They've already done so.
Yeah.
So now we've gone back where it's gone up. There was like so much, like, you know, you got your steep incline, and we have now leveled off. What will then continue to happen is as more houses become available on the market, there's going to be less people that are buying. So we're going to start seeing that. And again, I don't see it as a crash per se. I see it
No.
as a correction, right?
Yeah,
So
It's a softening.
a softening of
Yeah.
valuations and everything else. Because I looked at my house, right? So like I bought my house 6 years ago. I bought my house for $280. I could list and sell my house now for $560.
That's freaking insane.
Yeah. So right now,
Crazy.
and I told this story, I think even during like our office meeting too. At the beginning of the year, this year, if I tried selling my house, it would have been $400,000.
Yeah.
So there's been such a steep incline because of the amount of demand. Now what's gonna, like, obviously I don't want to call it artificial, but it's essentially because of the way that the market's been going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to sell my house now, I'd make top dollar. The problem is I'm going to take that top dollar and I'm
And
going to
you
be
still have
buying
to buy
top dollar. So I'm going to be
Right.
buying at the top of the market. So for instance, all these other people that are like, okay, now's the time for me to upgrade my house. You're not really upgrading your house because you're still buying
So
at the top end
how
of
do
the
you
market.
avoid that? Like how do you still sell your house at the top? And then what? Do you just keep it and rent for a year and wait, or do you kind of just have to say
Personally-
and just do it, or just
If you know
Because
you are going to be, let me just tell you this. If you can tell me what to do, you get $1 billion.
crystal ball?
Because you know the future.
That's the
Because
thing, we don't
remember,
know.
remember in the last crash
Yeah.
on the drive up Clinton Keith Road, true story, with all my doorknobs in my Suburban, the talk was, no, it's not going to crash. On the drive down, the talk was, it crashed.
Yep.
Same day, within hours. So, you know, the issue isn't whether you, first of all, home ownership. Why are you owning a home? Okay, so it's different for everyone.
Right.
You know, for me, when I got my first home, I bought my first home in San Francisco. My friends were still in college. Okay, that was an ego thing. I
did the same.
I begged, borrowed, and stole. Literally. I mean, we lied about where our funds were coming from. This is back when they didn't have the internet and all this stuff. This is in the 80s. I mean, you know, we took out so much debt to have a house. And when I got that house, my heart filled because I felt like a full person, because I said, I'm a landowner.
Yeah.
And then someone explained taxes to me, and I realized I'm never going to own anything because if I don't pay my taxes, they're taking them back. They're going to take my land. But it was very important for me. It was so important to me that I put myself into a very bad financial situation. My dad said to me, a man pays his debts. And so I refused to file bankruptcy. We moved to Seattle. It was a struggle. It was a big struggle. And my wife and I later said, after buying another house up in Seattle for $154,000, and the market's going to go up, and we ended up putting 40 grand into it and having to sell it for $154,000
What you paid
and
for.
move, because we were moving back to California, and then the .com hit.
Right.
Okay, when I sold my house in San Francisco, the market crashed. But now that house is worth, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
My home in Aliso Viejo that I sold is for $820,000 in 2005. I bought that for $274,000 in 1999. Okay, I came out here. Oh, by the way, those homes are worth 1.1 million right now. So, how many millions would I have if I knew to keep everything
predict.
and to rent it and do the? Okay, would I be a landlord I'm a real estate broker, people. Would I be a landlord in the state of California? Never. Not after what I just saw. Did they open it up yet? Can you take anyone to court yet? So here's
Still
what we're.
can't.
The eviction wasn't it was just
It was
released.
postponed again.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
because I was
so
like,
here's
you
what's
released
going.
something about it.
So you're not paying your rent to me, okay? And I can't do anything about it. I'm not paying my mortgage to Jonathan. He can't do anything about it. But Jonathan is very sophisticated and he's ready to go. I'm a homeowner. I don't know anything. I just thought it would be cool. Somebody told me that all wealth. So I bought a lie. Here's the lie I bought. That rich people don't own their home. They just rent out all their homes. Like, there's so much garbage on the internet.
Right.
Did you know you can find anything on the internet that you believe?
Yep.
You can find proof of anything.
Wait, that doesn't even
So,
make any sense.
It doesn't make. Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. So rich people don't own their home. They.
This is
They rent all
watch
that.
it. The watch social media.
Yeah. Okay.
All they try to tell you. I have a friend that talks like this. You just want to rent them. This is how you make your money. I know this guy that he lives basically in a bathroom in a 7-Eleven, but he owns all these homes and he's super rich. But okay, I don't want that.
No.
Do you know what I want? I want to own all the 7-Elevens and I want to live in a palace and I want everyone else to live in the toilet. Why would I want to do that?
Right.
Why am I working?
It's your quality of life.
Right. So going back to the market, place, the automotive market is what people have to watch out for because they sell it based on what's called tranching of stocks. Okay, so when you buy a car and then you do a lease, it's within hours. That's not a lease anymore. It's a stock. It's been thrown into a pile. It's like a loaf of bread. Each slice of bread is a different person's lease. So those are all supposed to be A paper, B paper, C paper. All right, meaning the quality. And what they did is in real estate, what they did is they said, well, Rick's got, a 680 score. We'll throw that in there with a bunch of 780s. No one's going to notice. It's totally diluted. It's dilution. It doesn't matter. They got away with it. And then they started doing it more. And pretty soon that entire loaf of bread that was supposed to be 780 credit score is nothing but 520s. And they're lying. That's what they did in the automotive industry. The automotive industry figured that out. I used to do all advertising in Seattle for tons of firms, right? So these guys figured it out and they started doing it. Then they started figuring out that, you know what, I'll sell it to you for 36 months because you're going to stop paying at 34 and I'm going to repo it and I'm going to sell it again. That's the other game. So now you just heard from Jonathan the statistics for the Inland Empire, which has how many people? 4.5 million. How many people in Oregon? 4.
Yeah.
4 million. Okay, so let's get
in the
real.
entire state?
In the entire state. So the Inland Empire, which is San Bernardino, Riverside County, correct? And Imperial Valley too?
Yep.
Is it that one? Okay. That is the middle state of the United States, where we live. Okay, so let's just take it in perspective. We have an entire state we're dealing with. Okay, in that state, you just told me, because I know it's true, I was just asking for you to prove the data, is that we have someone who can afford a $525,000 home. Okay, they can afford what's the payment on that right now? 3%.
2,500.
Okay, so 2,500. Yeah, they have a Ford F-150. They're spending let's just be generous and say $850 a month because they got conned and they put cash down on a depreciating asset. Okay, so they actually did that. So now the market changes and he loses his job because he's in construction because it only goes. I mean, we build homes in phases. When the phase is done, you're out of work, right? That's how we get our garage insulated. We're waiting for those guys to finish working out there. You can't get anyone to do anything for you right now because they're all on the big. Everyone's ego has gone through the roof. I went through this. I'm 58 years old. I went through this. I've been through it 4 times. They made some money. This guy has got a jacked up pickup truck. It's 4 doors. He drives everywhere alone and gets 11 miles on the freeway, 11 miles to a gallon. So he's putting $85 of gas in his tank every 2 days. Mm-hmm. Every 2 days if he's driving around town. But if he has to go to San Diego, places like that. He's putting that in every day. Every day.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
So now let's just start
And the
doing
gas-
the math.
don't
That's
forget the gas-
$4,000
the
a
gas
month in gas.
prices are so
you got
insane.
$4,000 in a month, and you look at their living expenses and stuff, but you don't count like you spend on month food. Like that's
We don't count utilities, gas, all this other stuff. And this is actually that's a conversation that I had with my wife too, because it's like, okay, on paper, here's how much you qualify for, but you don't qualify for that.
Well, that's,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but that's what isn't it nice
That's-
then? Is it a better conversation for people who are like I don't care how much I qualify for the house price. It's
You
more
don't
like how
cook.
much
You
I
don't
pay
qualify for the
month.
house price. You
'Cause
can't.
they-
You eat out too much.
Well, think about it
You know,
too.
not you
Someone,
personally, but, you know.
someone, not even a first-time home buyer necessarily. This could be just someone who's going from renting to buying. They know they had their fixed rent, and then they know they had their approximate utilities and stuff. They know how much they make. They know how much they're spending on their daily life and all that.
Do
so
they?
well, I mean, let's say. So the perfect customer. So they know like they really shouldn't be spending more than $2,500 a month on mortgage, including whatever the PMI, including that's literally their cap. But it's like, how do you work with that? Because then they see all these houses. They're like, but you said I was
But that's
approved
not-
for like.
well,
But
so
that's not
here's
your
the-
We're
Whatever.
kind of going back to the marketplace.
But that's
we're
not your
talking about-
concern. Your concern
It's
is
not
get
our
the loan
concern,
approved.
right?
Right.
That's on them.
We're talking
Here's what
about
you
as
qualify for on paper.
Right.
If you spend $500 more than what we qualified you for, that's on you. We can't help that,
Yeah.
right? I can tell you what you qualify for, but I can't tell you how to spend.
But it's
your money.
also the types of questions too, because like that is something that we do have a conversation with. Like, what's a comfortable monthly payment? And half the people are like
Right.
$2,000. It's like you're not going to buy a house for $2,000.
Right.
you're gonna
Everybody
buy it
wants
for
$2,000 still.
$2,500.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My wife is
So,
consumed with that.
But going back to what you said, yeah.
Ours is
so
1,200.
Kind of going back to the
Yeah, well,
marketplace.
you live,
and
you're
1,200.
55 plus.
Of course, I hate where I live
and
right
the
now,
crystal
but this is
ball,
separate,
like
so.
nobody knows. Real estate is an investment, right? So you can't look at real estate current because everybody's got their opinions. Current is people are paying $40,000 over asking price. There's only so many people that can do that because you have to have the cash to do
Sure.
that. The amount of people in the United States that have savings more than $10,000
More than 400. Remember.
is astronomically low. People don't save here, right?
No.
So all
In New
those
York.
people that bought at the top of the market, they bought, right? And so
And all their
it's-
money is gone.
It's softening, but people want to answer the question, when do you buy? It doesn't really matter if you have a 30-year picture. Why? Because people say, well, that's 40 grand over asking price. Yes, but your interest rate is 3.125.
Right.
Over 30
Okay,
years.
so I did this scenario for a guy the other day.
How much? Okay,
Same
so
one.
I was paying like 5.5 typically.
4% loan versus 3.0%.
Okay.
So I did the amortization schedule for him. Over 30 years, he's paying $240,000 more at 4% versus 3. Now,
What was the
all
loan
the, there's a
size?
lot of different numbers that go into
Right.
that. So if you hear 4 and 3, that's not you. It's dependent upon your situation. But so the way I explain it to people is, sure, you may buy 40 grand over asking, but over the life of the loan, you're saving $240,000.
Because of the interest rate.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you
There's
didn't
a lot
buy
of
a
offsets.
house in this
Yeah.
peak of the market, you missed a really great boat to be on with interest rates.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Except for one
It's not-
small detail.
If it goes back up to 4 or 5%, it's right where it was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
right? But you're not paying 40 grand over asking. So over 30 years, it all fluctuates and
But
works
is
out.
it more
Exactly.
for people who are like, I'm only going to live here for 2
Well,
years and
no,
then try
right.
that those it doesn't work for them.
Well, no. Here's
No.
the problem, and
You're
this
looking
is
at long term.
yeah.
You have to
Okay.
look at long-term.
There's
with real
people
estate.
that look short term and
Yeah.
long term. So,
So-
if my short term is I'm not going to be here, then it's not worth doing the buy down.
Yeah.
It's not worth doing all these other things because you're going to lose out.
Here's the catch. That's the small detail. Is that the crystal ball phenomenon that nobody
Yeah.
has. Okay, so we owned 10 homes in 10 years one time. Okay, that was our big claim to fame. We moved a lot because a lot of people are unfamiliar with the tax codes and the fact that if I live in a home 2 of the last 5 years that I've owned it, then I can take up to $250,000 personally, and my wife can take another $250,000 tax free. So that was a game. That's a game we played. We would live there for a while, we'd sell it, we'd make it. But the market had to go up. Sometimes the market was down. We took $820,000, came out here, dumped into a place, and turned that into, I think, a $25,000 debt. You know what I'm saying? Man, we lost the house. We lost 2 homes. It blew up. No one thought it would. I thought it would. But I learned a hard lesson. Real estate is neighborhood based. So I came from
true.
Orange County where they were selling like hotcakes to get out of it and the price went up and then all of a sudden it's coming down. I came out to Temecula and things weren't doing that. In fact, they were still going up. So I waited for a couple of years, and I'm like, well, I guess maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And I did it, and 9 months later, it exploded. And we know that because it is, as a 50-plus-year-old, that I have tons of friends with $25 left in their 401k.
Yeah.
So it's great that the stock market went up. It's great that your, a stockbroker gamed you and made you think that he's helping you. When I had money, I had to take the money out for taxes. The S&P 500, which I had a certain amount in, was at 718 point. What is it? 4,000 right now. Okay, don't forget. There's a bull market and there's genius. Don't get them confused.
Right.
Okay, so what we're experiencing is this phenomenon that when you get older, if you guys haven't seen it, you'll see it, which is people make money, they think they're smart.
You know what's funny?
You're a young man, and you've had it happen, huh? Your
my
ego went
401k
crazy when you made a bunch of money, right?
My 401k doubled, and I'm like, yeah, baby, I'm the smartest person in the world right now.
That's right. And
money.
watch this one. Watch when you go to retire, and 2 weeks before the market crashes, and your 401k is worth a tenth.
Yep.
That's what happened to my mother.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
still
Now my
don't
mother
really
had bad
understand
advice, so she sold.
401ks.
If you don't sell, it'll go back up, and it's paper. It doesn't matter. It's just a
Doesn't
number,
matter.
right?
Yeah.
Can I
So-
play the dumb person here
Sure.
that I am? I don't understand a 401k.
Okay, well, we're not talking about 401k.
All right, fine.
So
All right, well,
I'll explain it to you
another
later.
day.
We're starting.
We'll
one
do
anyway.
that later.
Okay, so it's deferred it's deferred tax. You put money into it, and then when you take it out is when you
Lowers
pay
your
your
But I'm
tax.
just
taxable
confused
income.
what determines how much
Okay,
it's
well,
worth.
we'll deal with that
So
later.
That's a whole.
That's like a whole
nother
other
podcast.
world.
Like, I understand it's retirement.
That's
but
like
I'm
two whole podcasts.
But I was trying to lead everyone to this point, okay, about the marketplace, and that's a realization that it's a personal. Everyone wants to talk about what they want to do, and I just have to use myself as an example in my family. Is that every time since we moved out here, okay, Aliso Viejo, when we moved there, we said we're never moving again.
I've heard that so
Okay.
many times.
We're never moving again, okay? And then we do. Okay, so then I started doing statistics, checking the statistics. The average before the first market crash of, well, not the first, but 2009.
Right.
Average home ownership was 7 years. Now it's 11. Okay, so when someone comes to me, okay, I'm not a mortgage broker, so like we don't, we had a show once where I'm being more critical of mortgage brokers, and everyone gets all weird. Guess what? You're my enemy. I'm your enemy. You want to try to figure out how to do it without me? I want to do it without you. Okay, welcome to the party. Like we're not going to have a little
Very true.
little back rub. It's like we're
frenemies.
We're frenemies. It's a frenemy industry. We
Yeah.
think you're idiots, and you think we're idiots. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just the way it goes, right?
That's how it happens.
It's just the way it goes. We can't do without each other, and
Right.
no matter
That's
what, you
because
can't figure it out.
99% of each people, like for your industry and in our industry, are idiots. I swear.
Right. So
It's like-
I'm selling a mortgage. I'm not going to get into any of that crap. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, well, you may think you're going to be here for 30 years, but you probably only, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
any of that. And you're not
exactly.
going to do that. No one expects you because you don't know.
And
I mean,
people can go into it thinking that's their forever home, and life happens.
I know a lady that
mean-
owned 2 Century 21 and in this whole valley. I won't use her name. She's super successful and retired. She had an escrow company too. Her and her husband moved to Big Bear. They're like, do you know how many poor people live in Big Bear? I was like, everyone, pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
she's like, it's terrible. There's nothing to do. It's the tip of a mountain. There's nothing to do up there. So anyway,
That's why
so they
most
had a
people just
rental in Sun City,
vacation.
in Sun City where we have a house, and Del Webb's Sun City. This famous retirement community, and now they're there. And she's like, I don't know how it happened. Like that wasn't her plan.
Right.
And now the market changed. So at the end of this whole talk, you're saying, well, what's going to happen to the marketplace? Well, what's going to happen to the marketplace is that people are going to lose their jobs. Things are going to happen, and they're overextended outside of the mortgage.
Yep.
That's the part. And they don't give up their cars. So that's when they start short selling their homes. But what happens before a short sale? I'm just going to reduce my
Short
price.
shelling.
A short sale.
Say that 6 times. Sorry.
Short sale.
Short sale, so short sale
sale.
of the price. So first thing we're going to do is, if the average price is $568, I'm going on the market for $525, and my house is going to sell like that because I got to get out of it.
Yeah.
And by the way, it'll usually get overbid if you underprice it.
sure.
It's kind of a weird phenomenon. So now that's where we're headed. That's what I keep trying to say to everyone. Where we're headed isn't that the real estate market is going to, and interest rates are what's going to go up. What's going to happen is that people are going to start these job adjustments again. Okay, if you haven't commuted and you moved from Orange County to Temecula, and you thought that your company was going to let you work from home, you're naive and gullible.
Right.
Because they're going to call you back.
Well, what about all
It's coming.
So the telecommuting right now. So there's so many companies that are allowing
hate
telecommuting.
They're hating that.
Well, so
The employees like it, the companies aren't
I'm
like it.
hearing conflicting things because I have an employer that is stating like this is the best thing that's ever happened, whereas his employees are like this is terrible. I want to be back at the office.
Yeah.
And then I have employees that are saying this is the best thing that ever happened, and the employers are saying
It's the worst.
this is the worst.
Might be dependent
Is it-
upon industry.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this the same
Facebook-
industry you're talking about or different industries?
It's different industries.
Yeah.
Facebook last year, I caught when they did a permanent stay-at-home work from home for all employees. I think Salesforce required 2 days a week in the office.
Right.
Something like I have a family member that works for Salesforce. She goes in Tuesday, Thursday. That's it. So I think it might depend on the industry. If you work for Facebook, you're behind a computer all day. If you work in our industry,
But see, you guys are all doing the
gotta
same
be-
thing. You believed him. Do you know that changes? Do you know what happened
you don't
last
believe
night in
him,
the
it's
board
just-
meeting? Do you know? This is true stuff. I've been on the board. I've been a CEO. Do you know what happened last night in the board meeting?
What board meeting?
Any board meeting across. It's fictitious.
Oh, okay.
This
I was like,
fictitious-
I was like, wait, what board
okay,
meeting?
This
There's a
okay,
board
so
meeting?
I'll say it a different way.
There's a
Do you
podcast
know what
meeting.
happened? I'm just making this whole thing up, obviously.
Or you
What
said-
happened last night in the Facebook board meeting? No, neither does any of the employees. But they're going to tell you, and that's going to be our new decision. And it isn't what you want; it's what we
Yeah.
want because we have one motive, and that's to make money. See, we're not customer driven. We're company driven. And if we're being good to the customer makes us more money, then we're going to do that. If being
Yeah.
mean to the customer makes us money, we're going to be mean to the customer.
Well-
I mean, there's the restaurant you've been into in Europe where they're really mean. Remember the waiters? It's Italy or somewhere. They do it on purpose.
not Italy.
The waiter, there's some place
They're
the
really
waiters
nice.
are mean on purpose. They're like they basically ignore you
Some
and do it.
pompous
And it's like
attitude.
part of
I
the
was like, I don't know
experience.
that
restaurant
is-
or a country? Because Joe's Crab Shack does that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. So this is the challenge: is that we're all sitting here looking at this as real estate agents and mortgage brokers, and we're like, okay, how long is the gravy train going to run? Because it's not really a gravy train if you're not skilled. We've talked about that.
True.
So right now we're faced with the fact that the homes are at the highest prices that they've been. They're higher than the market crash.
The demand is insane as
The
well.
interest rates are super low, so as Rick said, it makes sense, okay, if you hang on to it, okay? It makes sense sometimes to buy a car and finance it for 5 years. Unfortunately, you typically sell it at 38 months, so you lose bad, right? So what is really going on? If you're constantly refinancing your house, you just went from you're in a mortgage. My sister did this. She was in a mortgage for 20 goddamn years, and she just refinanced it. That's going to turn it to a 50-year mortgage.
Now I will
Like,
tell
hello?
you too, I've had multiple clients where it's like this is the fourth or fifth time that we're looking at refinancing your house. You understand every single time we are adding term and we are adding cost.
Yeah.
And and it's funny because I'm gonna dog on the call center LO because they don't care. That's a deal to them, right? But for instance, my client, who's a VA client, who's now coming back to me, and I looked, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2000. I skipped 2020 for some odd reason, but 2021, he's coming back. Hey, can I refinance? Why? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I need to know because I'm going to take you from the 2.5 that I locked you in at to a 3.125. Well, I need the money I need my equity to pay off my credit cards.
So he's actually increasing his.
So what you're
It's
seeing,
increasing
what you're
his loan
seeing
amount.
was what was going on when you were
but
19.
and the interest
True.
and the interest
and when you were
rate.
10.
Right.
Okay, this is what people did. I mean, the definition of poor, the joke in our family was people without a Suburban and a flat screen TV. I mean, things changed so much, and that's what we're seeing again now.
Yeah.
We're
But
seeing
now
the same thing
now
over again.
anybody can go get the Suburban or the flat screen.
Oh, that's
And
why
I could
I'm
be
saying.
making $15 an hour driving around my Suburban.
That's where
Yeah.
that was my point in the beginning. And my other point that I was making with Rick was that okay, I said this in that other podcast. The CEO I'm so glad I did it. I never go on, what's it called, LinkedIn, because I'm not looking for a job, right? So so I go on LinkedIn, I'm looking through it. It's disgusting what I'm watching, right? There's just nothing but ass kissing going on. It's unbelievable. So guess what? The CEO of AT&T said he's not going to lay anyone else off.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But he
yeah.
said for the next 90 days, he said that, and everyone treated it as if he said forever.
Right.
And that's where I'm coming from. They never say forever. There is no forever. Because it just depends on what's going on with you. I mean, are you going to stay in this location, Jonathan, forever? Can you say that?
But
no,
can
and
you
you probably know you
if you
wouldn't.
say indefinitely,
I got
doesn't that
1
just
year
mean
left on this
until
lease,
further
so.
notice, basically?
At the 91 first day, he laid everyone off.
91st.
Everyone. The whole divisions that are profitable for other people, other companies, they just, it was their chance to clean house and kind of start over, get rid of those high paying salaries, hire some 23-year-olds in to do, all this stuff goes on. You don't like it, you don't believe it, I don't really care. I got away from it. So we're dealing with this is our farm.
Right.
All of us, we've got the Inland Empire, we got 4.5 million people, and we got a lot of pressure on the marketplace because people are doing the same stupid thing I did. I moved from the beach to the desert. Like, who does that? Well, a ton of us do that because we want more.
Right.
We want more. And you're able to show them how they can get more. What we can't control is that you keep buying things that you can't afford.
Right.
We can control by law.
I had a conversation with somebody yesterday because their initial conversation was, starting off, I don't want my monthly payment over $1,800. Okay, here's how we keep the monthly payment about $1,800. You're not going to be able to buy here. We're now up to a $3,000 payment.
Yeah.
And it's like, when is enough?
Because they don't realize.
Enough, but it's also like, again, it's from, there's two various different standpoints, because from my end, it's, I'm going to educate you as much as possible because I don't want this, if you're basically working to pay the mortgage, which is what a lot of people are doing, there's no savings, right?
Right.
We're putting them in down payment assistance program.
What'd you say, Rick? It was like $400. The average family doesn't even have $400 in America to
savings,
have
anything, the amount of savings under 10,000.
Total savings.
What is the mortgage
high.
about of a $300,000 house right now?
$300,000 is about a $2,000 month payment, including taxes and interest.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was a good
everyone's
segue.
trying to be 300 and under right now.
Yeah, and there's nothing else on the
impossible.
market.
I was just trying to say why I thought the market's going to adjust is because
to kind of pull back to what we originally talked about, the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to talk about just briefly is not opinions on what's going on, the facts of what's going on in the past year and a half, right? We have a worldwide pandemic, economies crash, governments flood with money, stimulus, whatever. So that creates inflation, right? That's happening right now. So CPI readings for the past 4 months, 0.9, 0.7, 0.9, 0.3 yesterday. That's a 8.5% annualized inflation. It's happening, okay? Now, real estate is an inflation hedge. So what I thought about talking about today is to help alleviate people's concerns at buying at the top of the market, this and that, whatever, from your current situation, is the benefits of investing in real estate. So let's say you buy a house for $500,000, you got $20K, right?
In savings?
$20K in savings, that's what you have to work with, right? So you can rent, and we all know that just goes down the drain. You're not owning anything, okay? Keep in mind the inflation is going, okay? So if you're holding off to buy, here's what happens. You spend money on rent, but inflation kicks in, so your $20K is no longer worth $20K. So everything's more expensive. It's basic econ,
Correct.
right? If you take that $20K and you invest it and buy a $500,000 house, okay? Instantly, you have an investment, right? So you put $20K down. Now, last year in Riverside County to this year, homes have increased in value 20%. The average is 3.6, so there's a big deviation.
Yeah.
But, so let's take 5%. 5% of 500,000 is 25,000. So next year, your house, very conservatively, should be worth $25,000 more. But during that time, you're paying off your principal of your loan.
That interest rate?
Right? Yeah. So you're paying off the principal of your loan. You're reducing your loan amount. So your 20K in 1 year is now worth 25, plus you reduced your principal payment over that year, and let's say it's about whatever 18 to 20K, your principal amount. So your 20K investment went to 25 plus the 20 that will be returned to you when you sell the house in 1 year. So 20K turned into 45,000. See what I mean?
If you
You
didn't
sound
say
just
if you didn't say that, I would have been
all
like,
the bankers that we talked to before the last crash. And you
But that's
know,
what happens. Those are factual numbers.
but
That's,
check it out.
That's what happens.
But how long?
They're
is it gonna
factual
last?
numbers if they become true. They're projections, and they projected the market would grow 20% a year. They used that number. That's how we failed. Okay. So
Well,
here's
those are
how do
true.
you
Like, so the Riverside
You're
County
talking
housing
about what
prices.
has happened recently, but that doesn't
that
mean
means
it's
I
gonna
had to
happen
buy the
next
house a year ago, and I have to sell it now because it's factual. But next
What I
year,
did
what's
is I
it going to
took
go up next
It's not
year?
going up 20%. That's why I said
What-
a 5%
what's it going up next
increase.
year?
Well, we don't know.
15 years from now, when I want to sell my house, what will it have gone up?
Well, you have to use the average.
Well, I'm just saying, my
3.6%.
point being,
That's
where
a
I'm being
projection.
an antagonist on it because I'm saying, I know what you're saying. So
Wait.
I'm being the person out there who doesn't want to come in the market and doesn't want to
You're-
think something.
But wait, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, because you just threw out a lot of numbers and I feel like I got confused. What you're saying that's factual is what happened from last year to this year, but it's not factual about what could
He's an
happen.
He's an economist. He
Yeah.
tells us why and what happened.
Yeah.
He can't tell us what's going to happen.
And that's what I'm saying.
He's only
So-
telling
Well, I'm
us what
not
happened.
projecting another 20% increase. I don't
No,
think
no,
that's
no.
sustainable.
But you're selling it that way.
No.
You're
I said
telling
from
me,
2020 to 21, it was a 20%
dude, I
increase
can give
in
you
Riverside
the
County.
opposite.
So I was being
I can show you the
conservative
opposite.
if it increases 5%.
But in
average, every
2009,
year it's
in 2008, my house was worth $1.275 million. In 2009, it was worth $358,000.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Explain that. How does
Explain
that
that.
happen?
Well, I can't explain it.
Well, neither can I. So what the point is what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is
How
I'm
does
saying.
this
So
make
this is good because there's people out here that think this way.
Well, I'm trying to explain to him simply. You can.
That
the
wasn't-
It makes
benefits
total sense.
That
investing
wasn't
in real
simple.
estate.
To the person who has no idea, like, I
No, 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 no.
literally have no idea what you just said, basically, until you said 20,000
so-
went to
so
45.
here's-
Then I finally got to whatever
Okay.
you said.
Here's the opposite.
I'm
and
average homeowner.
my brother, you're my son-in-law. I believe you. I know you. That's why you're here. I know you're right. I know you're
That's why I
right.
could rip you. Just kidding.
I know you're right, and I
You're
love
just
you.
making up
But
for
your take. Okay, so just look at it from another. I'm going to give you another look, because he's right.
I think you have a point if I were to say in 1 year it's going to increase 20%.
No, I
from
get
current
it.
value. It
She's,
won't.
You
she's
just-
the one who missed it because we talked too fast and too many numbers.
Yeah, I was like,
She's artistic. She's
Okay, so check this out.
I'm not autistic. I'm
Artistic.
I know.
I do need
I
to
know.
run to our Zoom call right now, so
Okay.
we can continue.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just step out.
Well, I'm just going to get this thing, and then I know we're at the end of our
Here,
time.
let me
So
scoop
so
out.
here's the other way. Here's the other way to think of it. So I'm a homeowner, okay, and I'm renting, and then you tell me I want to go buy a house. All right. So I'm going to go buy a home, and so I'm a homeowner that's renting. So I'm paying $2,000 a month. Now I'm going to go take on. Let's just be reasonable. $2,600 a month. So I'm going to spend $600 a month. Now when my toilet breaks, I have to go fix it. When my roof gets old, I've got to replace it. Okay? I've got to pay the taxes on that sucker every year. Oh, I get a deduction, but my deduction is less than the taxes I pay. Okay? This is a fact. I'm a real estate
Well, same
agent,
with like even the
broker.
tax
So,
write-offs. Isn't there a limit?
well, there's a limit, but what I'm saying is there's a limit on your tax break. But people always say these words. You'll hear them talk. I need a deduction. I got to buy a house. Well, you don't realize that your deduction is going to be offset by the taxes you pay, and depending on your area. I'm in an area
Well,
with
isn't that what
1.1.
the deduction's for? It's for the taxes you're paying. It's not really about the rest of your deductions you need to make on your life.
You know,
right?
they've eliminated like the state and federal, and they've eliminated a lot of things for deductions and given people a bigger credit for their children. And
Yeah.
so for a lot of people, that's another thing that took people out of the market. Like, well, because that's their thinking. Remember, this is what I'm challenging you on, and not saying you're wrong in any way. I'm just saying this is how people think
why
out
we're
there.
here.
So they're going, well, shoot, wait a minute. So if I follow me,
I'll
if
try.
I rent a home,
Try.
I rent a home.
Rent. Okay.
Okay, I pay a landlord, And when something breaks, he pays for it. If there's a community association, it's included in my rent or he pays for it. When taxes come, he pays and send me a supplemental tax bill. Okay, so now I pay my $2,000 a month, which by a real estate mortgage broker and mortgage broker, you're like, I'm putting it into nothing, okay? But remember, I would have had a $2,600 payment plus another $55,000 to $10,000 a year in taxes.
Because of your personal situation.
No, because I live in an area.
Well, I'm saying your landlord can benefit because either their mortgage is lower than your rent, or they own it outright and it's just
that doesn't matter
cash
to me as the person who's looking at buying a house. And I'm looking at buying a house and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, this is completely overrated. What are you talking about? Okay, so I want to buy in an area with a low tax rate. Just follow this. I'm in a low tax rate, so I got a 1.1% tax rate. Okay, so on a $550,000 home, I'm paying like say $6,000 a year in taxes. So there's $6,000 I got to come out of my pocket. By the way, it's due at Christmas time on the 15th of December and April 15th at tax time. That's when you get to come up with your $3,000 each time. Okay. Now, if you go to a lot of these outlying areas, well, the fancy new and Melrose, you're at what's the highest one you've seen around here? 3?
It's not like 3.5 or
Yeah.
something.
3. So that's 3 times. So that's $18,000 a year. Now divide that by 2. That's $9,000. If it's not coming out, you got to come up with that money.
And Paige was telling me if it's less than like 2.5, it's not that bad or something. I'm like,
Yeah, but okay. So I'm
That's
sitting here
a lot.
and I'm renting a house that my landlord I know could sell for $800,000. He bought it for $200,000, right? So it's good. I'm paying $2,000 a month to live there. If anything breaks, it gets taken care of. Why in God's name would I ever buy a home? People do it all the time. They increase their price, and then they're house poor. They're just buried, and then they have the car payment, which is killing them. Okay, because if you make $36,000 a year and you pay $200 a month for your car, that's 0.44% of your annual income. But if you make $350,000 a year and you have a $1,700 a month car payment, it's only 0.55. These are people that make $80,000 a year and have an $800 a month car payment. That is what's going to take this whole thing down.
Yeah.
That's what I keep saying. So if I'm looking at somebody saying, you should buy a home, I'm like, why? Now I own homes, so I own like 3 homes. I mean, I'm into
But
owning
is
homes.
that why we
I
keep
mean,
going? We
rent
keep going back to
increases on average
situational.
5% every year.
Do
Right?
what?
Rent increases on average 5% every year. Right. But your mortgage payment is fixed. Right. So
Okay.
that's one of the things you can say against that. Right. So you may say it goes down the drain, and you're saying yes, but everything that you need is taken care of with a home. You got to pay for it out of pocket, plus property taxes, this and that. So,
Right. And that's why, see, we have people that make a lot of money, but they have so much debt that all they can do is rent. They can't get the cash together for the 3.5% FHA down payment or 20% conforming loan,
Yeah,
right?
because you see that all the time.
This
you
is
see,
the
you
issue.
see people who make a lot of money, or the people who have like really high income jobs and stuff, but a ton of debt, so their credit score is super low and everything, so they get these terrible interest rates and stuff. You know, it's like I feel like it really comes down to I can equate my good credit score to like you and Mom. You know, you taught me really early, build your credit, pay off your cards, whatever, because credit score is so important. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like people like you, even, you know, you grew up poor, and even when you got to the point where you're making a lot of money, was your credit score always good? You know, I mean, because you didn't.
They gave us free credit cards.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to jump in
It's
here
just so
real
different.
fast and just say that because of how she was raised, her parents made sure she had good credit and she was taught well. She bought a house by herself at 23 years old. Full house by herself.
And I was making
That's how important credit is.
$45,000 a year.
And her sister just bought a $600,000 house on her own income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
That's
important
at
credit
30 years
scores
old. So I'm, and then they married really well. So I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, but that's the
pay
thing
for
is
my
like
meal.
how
I think she married down.
that's the
but
thing
fine.
is how much Americans screw up with all the car buying and, you know, this fake American dream that's sold and everything. It's not real. The American dream that all these, you know, people try and still come to America for it's impossible. It's not what it used to be. You used to be able to buy a humble home, raise your family, and it was the American dream. You had a TV, maybe one TV in the house, you had the one family car. But now the American dream is, like you said, a big old SUV, and you probably have 2 more cars. You have this massive house and all this stuff.
Motorcycle, a trailer, toy
and then
hauler,
a boat, and it's like in this area,
in the desert,
this area, everyone wants a boat, an RV, and then a big enough house for all of that to fit in, and then your 2 cars, maybe a third, because you got a almost 16-year-old, and then you're gonna have to have a 4th for your other kid, and it's like
we can't even get through the neighborhoods anymore.
It's
so many
insane.
damn cars, right?
It's insane.
It's so true.
In our neighborhood, I mean, we're also a 2-family house, so obviously, like, only so many fit in the garage and in the driveway. But so that's the case for everyone, because there's cars constantly on the street, because every home has, I think, more than 2 cars. I've seen at least 3 in most. And and honestly, it's like,
but this
it's
is
not the same
the
dream anymore.
Americans.
You're right.
It's
I think
like we're insane.
people have gone how they think of eating. Right, I'm from the South, so I see people, their eyes are way bigger than their stomach. I think that's transferred into
No,
their stomachs are
actually,
way
no.
bigger than the rest of than their car.
right, but it's translated into people's financial lives where
teeny beady
their
little
eyes are
eyes.
bigger than their
Yes.
stomach. Right, they want that Tesla.
Yeah.
But
I
you
want
want
that
that
Tesla.
Tesla at $1,400 a month. But then you want that SUV for your 3 kids.
We almost bought an
Now you
8,000
wanna buy
square
a
foot
house,
home, 8,800 square foot Victorian up in Seattle when we were up there. And do you know why we didn't? Because the price was good. Because we were going to have to fill it.
Yeah.
That was actually we were like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
wait a
that's the
minute.
thing. Is you're right, Rick. It's like, okay, so you want the car that's the best of the best out there, that's over $1,000 a month payment. Then you want the house that's like at least $3,000 a month payment. And then you also have your utilities, your groceries, all your normal stuff. And then you have to buy all the furniture to fit in that massive house. And then you want that boat and all that stuff.
People
so
don't
at
think
the end,
ahead.
how do you afford?
You got an $8,000 a month
Oh, and then you
nut,
lost your
and you
job.
bring in $9,500, and
Yes,
you get
so
$1,500.
people are not
right,
thinking
for
ahead.
groceries.
They say, and you see it, I've talked to people that do this, they want that Tesla. Yeah, but your budget for a car was $800. That's $1,400. That's okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
They don't say I need to stop eating pizza 3 times a week.
Yeah.
They keep doing it. And then,
and then I'll
in
work-
retrospect,
Cheese
they're like,
is
wait
an
a second.
addiction.
Wait a minute.
Cheese
My
is
credit
so
card debt
addictive.
went from $2,000 to $6,000 in 3 months?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah.
that happen? Well, you did, because you
You
made
said
these
you'd
mistakes.
figure it out.
Now
so
you want to
there
buy a
you
house,
go.
and you're so far below the game, you're out of it.
Peter
you can't-
Gabriel's Big Time. Just listen to the lyrics of that, and it describes all of us. I mean, we'll wrap it up with this.
Yeah.
As the oldest one
American
here, I'll
suck.
tell you, the good news is what you want today at 30 is not what you want at 58. I had a 5,700 square foot single story home with a big lookout over the valley built across an entire acre with it's a 900 foot driveway, and I can just tell you that was, well, let me put it this way, the half acre was too much work.
yeah.
So to that, it was unbelievable. Okay, it's just you don't want it.
Dad,
I bought a
that's why I'm
Suburban.
trying-
I want a sports car.
I'm trying to learn from your mistakes. So
Less
like
is
you
more.
said you're earlier in the car. My grandpa, who's an amazing man, you can still look at him and learn from his mistakes. And
Yeah.
so if we're ending on anything, learn from those older than you and ahead of you. Learn from their mistakes.
Here's something
That's
I
why
read
he's
this
been
morning
so
from my
great.
old
Like,
man
I
wisdom.
did it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show you.
The old man wisdom book. Okay, so I go to these men group to study, language and stuff. And one of the things we spent a week on once was humility. And so it's a good way to end. And we finally did. It was a week. We talked about it every day. So here's what humility is. We decided as a group. It doesn't mean it is. Teachable. So guess what? People with high self-esteem have humility because they're teachable. People with low self-esteem try to do everything alone and say, I'll figure it out, right? Like with the guy with the Tesla. They don't talk to others. And where does our strength? Why does this podcast get better? Because Scott was the one? No, because we have 4 people now. So I
all
have the
talk.
strength of my son-in-law, my daughter, my other daughter, my wife, my James, my illustrious James, and my
Illustrious
and
James.
Jonathan Farrell. I have access to all of that. When I make a decision today, I ask for all of their feedback, and I don't go on the one that matches with what I wanted to do.
Right. You gather information.
And that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to say today. If you've heard all of the data,
Yeah.
it's overwhelming. What is it really going to do? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
But I can tell you that Rick Hancock can always tell you why it happened. That's an economist. And that is the joke.
Learn
but
from the
economists
past.
cannot tell us what's coming. They can just say most likely
Yeah.
or less likely.
The projected.
Correct?
There's no crystal ball. Right.
Well, and when it comes to buying a house, no one can tell you it's the time for you or it's not the time for you. It's situational, right? And that's really what it comes down to.
It's situational, and from a standpoint of someone who looks at people's finances, the best advice I can give is look at your debt, pay off your debt as much as you can. Like that's
And stop
number one.
increasing your costs.
Stop it. Just pay off your debt. You
And
pay
do
off your
not
debt, your
believe
credit-
this.
Yeah.
And do not tell yourself this. We need to buy a house because they're just we won't be able to afford it if we don't do it now. That's not true.
No.
not true.
No.
That's not true. That is not a true. And I got myself in trouble
Yeah.
with that because my wife and I got so worked up. In San Francisco, if you think this is crazy, in San Francisco, we had to park and run full speed to the front door to get our offer in while other people were parking and running full speed to the door. So you haven't seen anything yet. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.